It's a new look for the IMSA Prototype Challenge presented by Mazda in 2018. Last year's two 45-minute sprint races are gone, replaced by a new format, a single 1 hour 45-minute enduro, and that gives the teams the opportunity to employ two drivers if they wish. Hello everybody, I'm John Hindhaugh from IMSA Radio. Shea Adam and Jeremy Shaw will be taking you through the 1 hour and 45 minutes of action coming up in just a few moments' time. Before that, let me tell you the weather has not been playing very nicely this weekend, and there is a chance of rain in our race. That might just stir things up. Two different types of prototypes, the LMP3s are the closed-top V8 prototypes. The MPCs with the blue number panels are open-top four-cylinder Mazda engine cars. What about the circuit? VIR, extraordinary place this, just over 3¼ miles. And it's shocking to think that in the mid-1970s this place was closed down and we nearly lost it altogether. Thank goodness that the current ownership group reopened it in 2000 and restored it to actually better than its former glory, and it's a great place to go racing. The lights are out on the safety car, so let's take a look at the grid. Chris Wright and Austin McCusker on the front row, Lamelis and Grant, Hanratty and Hannah Zellers on row 3, Hamilton and Rob Hodis on row 4. Take a look down to row 8. That's the start of the MPC, the open top cars. Michael Chemecki and Tazio Otis on the front row for the blue plated cars. Side by side, this looks like a very good run. It's a very slow run to the green flag. No gap between the two classes here. Watch out for those smaller but nimble cars getting in amongst the LMP3s early on in this race. The first part of the lap is very tight and twisty. Green flag in the air, and we are racing at VIR. Across the start-finish line, it's not straight there, down towards the first corner. The right-hander, Chris Wright, in pole position, should have a little bit of an advantage, and does. Still side by side, my goodness, still too wide through turn 2. Look in the background, the blue and white open top car and the red open top car behind. That's the two leaders in MPC, and already they're cutting through the back of the LMP3 field. That's because they're a little lighter and a little more nimble than the bigger V8 engines car. Wow, that was very audacious indeed by the 34. Right, under the crossover bridge, and now heading up one of the signature part of the circuits, the uphill S's, all about getting a bit of rhythm. Everybody seems to have played nicely at the start. It's been a good, clean opening half a lap. Let's hope it stays that way. Halfway round, this is where the oak tree used to be. We still call it Oak Tree Turn, but it was, I'm afraid, cut down after it was hit by lightning a few years ago. Right, that's more than enough from me. Jeremy Shaw and Shea Adam are in the IMSA broadcast booth to take you through the rest of the 1 hour and 45 minutes with the pole sitter leading.
Chris Wright in the number 30 comes in as the championship leader to round 5 of 6, and he has a new co-driver this weekend, but it is all about him right now. Starting this race, he has a good lead over Austin McCusker in a Norma chassis, who is fighting off Leo Lamelis and Keith Grant in their two Ligiers as well. Off the lead, Michael Chemecki had a great start. He was already mixing it up with some of the LMP3 cars ahead of him, but for now, completing lap 1, Chris Wright holds on to the lead. Leo Lamelis is fighting to hold on to the 3rd position. Austin McCusker is just trying to keep eyes on Chris Wright, though, as they come through. And ooh, there's a spinner going into turn 1, 2 spinners, as a matter of fact. That is a white and purple car. Is that Joel Janko from the beginning in car number 25. The car that is stopped on track is the number 60. That is Bruce Hamilton in his Ligier, and it was 88. No, it was the Normas. That was Charles Chi who came together with Bruce Hamilton. and both of them have continued. Chris Wright under a lot of pressure from the Norma of Austin McCusker. Race winner last time out was McCusker at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. The Norma is very, very, very good on the straights, but it is the Ligier that holds the advantage through the twisty bits. Right now, though, Chris Wright needs to make sure that he has enough of a gap over the Norma, because when they come down the straight, the advantage goes to the car behind him.
Yeah, so a good start there for Chris Wright, and but a lot of pressure going behind. Let's have a look at see what happened there. Charles Chi and number 60 car Bruce Hamilton getting together there. Bruce Hamilton is one of the they're both Masters contenders.
And Charles Chi looked to just run into the back of Bruce Hamilton as we have a yellow flag. Leo Lamelas goes for a spin at the top of the roller coaster. Car 60 is stopped on course, so is Bruce Hamilton still there? Maybe wasn't able to get going again. And the yellow flag is out. Full course caution. We will be going to safety car.
So 2 laps completed. This is a 1 hour and 45-minute race. There'll be a mandatory pit stop at some stage during the race, and during that pit stop we'll have to take a minimum of 4 minutes. That's just to allow plenty of time to refuel the cars. The drivers will have to get out of the car, then get back in again. Some of the drivers are driving solo, but the majority, particularly in LMP3, have 2 drivers to share the car during this 1 hour and 45-minute race.
Chris Wright is going to have to hold off Austin McCusker once again. Green flag is back out and waving. And I believe that was Bo Barfield standing up on the starter stand as Austin McCusker has a look down the inside of Chris Wright, and Chris Wright manages to shut the door. He should be able to pull out a tiny bit of a gap as Keith Grant is right there in third as well in the bright yellow Ligier. And then we find Cameron Castles.
He must have made some one heck of a start there. And he passed. At the restart, he passed, well, half a dozen cars to move from 9th place up into 4th, or 5 cars to get up into 4th place as they cross the line.
Well, Jeremy, and the 11 goes for a spin. Kyle Masson going for a spin, that's odd.
Former champion.
Yeah, a defending MPC champion, although he's not going to be able to retain that crown this year. He was the champion in 2017, but it's all about track knowledge, Jeremy, and as Kyle Masson was assisted by John Brownson into that spin, and actually did a good job of holding on to it. We've been talking about the advantage all day of having come off the track. You jump into another race car, you know where the grip is. That is exactly the case for Cameron Castles, albeit he was just driving a car with 620 horsepower. Now he's getting into an LMP3 machine, much tighter cockpit. He's gonna have to recalibrate the brain, but he has the advantage over the competition. He knows where the grip is.
It's true, it's dry. It's fully dry now though, so they can turn some quick lap times. The pole time set earlier on today was a 1 minute 42.3, so that's kind of the benchmark we can look forward to. This is the first time that LMP3 cars have raced at VIR.
For John Brownson, running into the back of Kyle Masson could be very costly. He's the championship leader in the MPC class coming into this weekend as Jim Garrett goes off at the final turn and spins around. Doesn't hit anything though. We'll have to wait and see if he can get going again. It's showing as, yes, it is Jim Garrett in that number 42 at Ligier from P1 Motorsports. If John Brownson is given a penalty, forced to do a drive-through, and for some reason drops back behind all of his competition that he can't then get around, he could drop back to 7th, possibly even 8th in the championship standing, going from the lead when he came into this race.
Yes, that could be very costly.
And there it is, incident responsibility with the 11. It is a drive-through penalty for John Brownson, which will give the lead to Michael Klemecki. Second place will be Tazio Otis, who shares the car with M. Bart Wolf, who will be taking over a little bit later on. Jim Garrett just driving off completely on his own there.
Yeah, just carried too much speed into the final corner. The battle for the championship in Mazda Prototype Challenge is ridiculously close.
Great.
John Brownson had a 1-point advantage over Robert Masson coming into this weekend. Dave House was equal on points with Robert Masson. 1 point behind them are Embart Wolf and Tazio Ortiz, who share car number 28. 1 point behind them are both Paul LaHaye at car number 36 and Stephen Dawes, who's driving one of the Performance Tech motorsports cars. That's car number 22. He is tied together as well, and just 4 points behind them are Howard Jacobs in the other Performance Tech car number 77. So 7 points covering the top 7 drivers in MPC. So as you were saying, Shay, that penalty for John Brownson could end up being very, very costly.
Yeah, and John Brownson's been having a good year so far, as he only did partial seasons in 2015, 2014, and 2017. He was 4th in the championship in 2016, but he was the Masters champion in 2008, 2012, and 2013. A very experienced driver. No excuse for that kind of behavior, though. If you can't get around somebody, don't hit them out of the way.
He's known as Mr. Excitement, is John. This is 121st start in this championship.
Oh my.
Yeah, it made his debut way back in 2007. I think it was the second year of this championship. So he's been around a long, long time. And, you know, he's no spring chicken, is John, but he gets the job done. And he just a little bit too keen there, gets into the back of the youngster Carl Masson, of course, won the championship a couple of years ago.
He's no spring chicken, but he's no Dave House, and I feel like we should pay tribute to Dave House, who won the race at Sebring in the MPC category, led overall at one point. And how much life experience does Dave House have?
75.
75 years worth of life experience, the oldest winner in the IMSA competition. And we do love Dave House. He's back racing again this weekend, currently running in 5th in the number 86 machine. There's a battle at the front of the field for the lead as Chris Wright, who has a lot of sponsors here this weekend with iHeartRadio running on his number 30 machine for the first time, is trying to hold off Austin McCusker in the Norma. And John Brownson's going to be making another trip down the pit lane because he was speeding. He was 3 kilometers an hour over the limit as he came to serve his first penalty. So bad day turns a little bit worse for John Brownson, unfortunately. But the battle for the lead, it was the overall best Sector 1 for Chris Wright, and then the overall best Sector 2 for Austin McCusker. So when the Ligier gets into that Sector 1, where it's a more technical part of the racetrack, he's able to pull a tiny little bit of a gap. But then, when it comes to the part of the track where it's the long straights, advantage Norma. They're just looking at a weather radar map right now. There is a big blob of rain that is coming over us and looks that it'll be continuing to come over us for at least the next 30 minutes. Bring your driver in, put them onto the wet tires, and by the time those wet tires are used up or you need to change them, the pit window's open. Then you can change your driver, refuel the car, and change the tires again if need be. But the one important thing, to finish the race, you have to finish. You can't throw the car off the racetrack, as the number 3 is doing right now. That is Maxwell Hanratty, who manages to pull the car back on the course.
And he's just come out of the pits.
And Rob Holtz, who goes off course as well.
Yeah, Rob Holtz has done the same thing, also just coming out of the pit lane.
So that would be cold, wet weather tires then, that are not yet brought up to temperature, catching out some of the drivers who are driving as if they were still on the hot slicks, which would be better grip than the cold, wet weather tires until they get up to temperature as well. And the 42 of Jim Garrett is off the course at turn 3. Hopefully he can find a little bit of traction. The Continental tires are brilliant. Whoa, somebody went way wide. I think that was Dean Baker in the yellow number 4. No, not Dean Baker in the yellow number 4. Who would that have been? Maybe Keith Grant in the yellow 40. Yep, that's who it was. Going for a bit of grass cutting. The Continental tires, brilliant. But they work better on the black stuff than they do on the green, guys. You gotta work with us a bit. Austin McCusker leads, having not yet come into the pit lane. Dean Baker is in 2nd in the number 4 Ligier that he shares with Zachary Robichon. Leo Lamellis is in 3rd in the number 7. And Jim Garrett just looping it, coming through turn 3, carrying a little bit too much speed.
Carl Masson also gives up the struggle. He comes onto pit lane in car number 11, the MPC class leader. That'll leave Dave House, I think, out in the front in the category, the 75-year-old for One Motorsports in car number 86.
Oh, no, he's not,
No, he's
because
not.
he's off in the grass and he's trying to push the car uphill, and he's not quite going to make it. Hannah Zeller's off again in the number 87 Norma, this time at a slightly different part of the racetrack.
Some of these, many of these drivers, having come out of the pits presumably on wet weather tyres,
Yes.
they're not finding it any easier. They're sliding off the road right away. So when you come out, these tyres are really, they're stone cold.
Exactly.
No tyre warmers, of course, in this championship, North America in general. So
Yes.
to come out on cold tyres and on a wet track, it's super slippery. And these wet tyres won't have been used before either, because we haven't had any wet weather running, I don't think, at all this season, have we?
No, we haven't. We had, where was that? That was last year at Watkins Glen, I believe, was the last wet running we had, when it was very, very, very wet. Dave House has not yet given up the fight. He's still trying to push the car uphill to get back toward the racetrack. It's tantalizingly close and just keeps getting wheel spin. Dave sitting with his visor open and rain falling gently on his clear visor.
It's pretty scary to be. You know,
Yeah.
people sitting out there off the racetrack in these conditions.
Charles Shee having trouble turning his number 88 as the car did not want to make the move into 4, and he rejoins just after 5. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's really critical to remind your driver when they come out of the pit lane, even if they're on wet tires, it's not like the grip is going to be instantaneously there. You still have to take time to build the heat into the tires. And oh, Dave House, he's gotten so close. He's almost high-sided it. Now he backs up a little bit as Michael Klemecki goes for a spin again. That's his 3rd or 4th. Klemecki's still on slicks, and he too is having trouble getting it back to the
I'm not sure. I
racetrack.
think he's probably on wets. He was in a couple of laps ago.
Oh, you're right, Jeremy, you're right. There were grooves on
Last
those.
lap, I think. Oh, Dave's got it back out.
Well
Back out
done.
on the racetrack. Okay, good job, Dave House. Then we'll resume at a long way down the order again. That'll put Stephen Dawes into the lead in MPC ahead of John Brownson, who has been in the pit lane
For his
twice.
penalties.
2 penalties, weren't
Yes.
there? That's right.
There was the initial penalty for the contact with Kyle Masson, and then there was the subsequent penalty for going 3 kilometers an hour over the speed limit when he was serving his penalty for hitting Kyle Masson. So now the first car out on track on the wet weather tires is Chris Wright. He has taken the time to get them up to temperature, and his last lap was a 2 minutes and 5 seconds, 0.673. So he was 5 seconds faster the last lap than Austin McCusker in the Norma, who currently leads. Chris Wright, he's got to find 38 seconds to get up to McCusker. Well, if he's getting 5 seconds a lap by my rudimentary arithmetic, that would be 8 laps.
Yeah, and I think Chris Wright will go quicker too once he becomes acclimated to these conditions on those wet tyres. He's going to gain, I think, more than 5 seconds a lap.
Yeah.
With wets over dries at this stage.
And once you get the wet weather tires into a state where they're working at their optimum, the confidence boost that comes with it allows you to just gain time hand over fist, especially when people are out there on slick tires. And believe me, I've heard all the war stories from my father about trying to drive a race car on slick tires in the wet. Something that you remember for a very long time.
Yes, it's a challenge. I remember doing one race many years ago when I came in to make a pit stop to go from wets to dries, and it was a long pit stop. I couldn't figure out why, because there was no radio communication, at least in my car then, and I wasn't sure they waved me out, and the car was all over the place. We had wets on one side of the car and dries on the other.
Oh.
Tell you what, that was a challenge, but as the track was drying out, it was actually really quite good, and the car was really fast, but it was
really
rather
well
interesting.
one way. Didn't turn really well the other way.
That's exactly right.
Michael Klemecki off the road again, and his wet weather Continental tires not finding the purchase that they would like on that long grass off the side of the track.
So Zachary Robichon now is up into 2nd place ahead of the car number 3 of Ben Waldell. He's been turning some good laps as Zachary, and as a result of the other pit stops around him, he's still on the lead lap with Chris Wright and about 35 seconds behind him.
Michael Klemecki going into turn 1, ran off drivers left and then just spun it. He's at the same place where we saw the number 60 of Bruce Hamilton go off early on in the race and then not be able to rejoin under his own power. Klimecki, though, one-ups him. He gets back pointed in the right direction, and John Brownson's off the course from the MPC lead, and he is trying to get the car back uphill a little bit to get back on course. Can he do it, though? He's got a lot of traffic coming through. There's Paul LaHaye in the number 34 MPC. Oh, come on, John. No, he throws his hands up in frustration, does John Brownson. Wheel spin aplenty for the number 34, the red machine. But Dr. Masson in the number 11 MPC car for Performance Tech Motorsport coming across the start-finish line now. We'll see John Brownson stuck off the side of the racetrack and take the lead. Thank you and goodbye. So Jeremy, have we worked out yet if Zach Robichon is anywhere near Steven Simpson or can get anywhere near him?
I beg your pardon?
Have we worked out yet if Steven Simpson and Zachary Robichon are...
Yeah, they're about 35 seconds apart.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, and last time round, Robichon was 6 seconds quicker. Of course, he has been out there for several laps on his since taking over the wheel of the car, so he's fully up to speed. Steven Simpson is still getting up to speed, having just made his pit stop a couple of laps ago.
Masson still off the course at turn 1, and Dr. Masson leads in the number 11, Brownson. Oh, he managed to get things going again, but his car will not go for very long, as it looks like it has a mustache now. There's so much grass in the front of that car. He's going to need to come into the pit lane to clean that out. And in terms of trying to get all of the grass out of these cars, it's not the easiest job in the world. So for his Eurosport Racing crew, there are little bolts on the front of the car that you use a Phillips head screw to unclasp. They might need to undo those and shake them out a little bit to try and make sure that all of the damp grass manages to find its way out. That looks like a recipe for overheating to me. Oh boy, and it's busy in the back of the field as Corey Lewis, Kenton Cook, and I think that was Dean Grant, all three together on the racetrack going up through the S's, trying to avoid John Brownson, who is trying to wiggle free some of the grass.
And car number 30, Andrew Evans, a youngster from Washington State, from Seattle. He's just 20 years of age, making his debut in the championship this weekend for that Charles Wick Racing Performance Tech Motorsports, car number 7. He's taken over from Leo Lamelis. Evans has been racing, well, karts since he was a kid. He won the Pacific F2000 Championship a few years ago. Done some LMP3 racing in Europe, including sharing car with CJ Wilson for a couple of races last season. And he's making his debut in this championship this weekend. And he's running now in 3rd position. He's about a half a minute behind Zachary Robichon in 2nd place, who in turn is about a half a minute behind our race leader, Steven Simpson.
Steven Simpson, Zachary Robichon in 1st and 2nd, Cameron Castles in 7th, Corey Lewis in 8th, Kenton Cook in 9th. All of those drivers, and Robbie Foley in 18th, all of those drivers have race experience from today, or at least driving a race car on the track today. That said, the racetrack right now does not resemble the racetrack of any other time over the course of the day, because even when we have had rain in the other races, it hasn't been this consistent. It dried out at various points throughout the race weekend. It didn't just keep raining, and while it looks to be getting a bit brighter outside, there is still rain on the windshield of our battle bus where we are broadcasting from, our IMSA radio booth. It is different. And that's one thing about VIRginia International Raceway, it's always changing. It's a very sticky track surface, but it's very slippery when it gets wet, and the pit lane especially was that way. It really did feel like ice skating at one point, trying to walk in tennis shoes. Can't imagine what it feels like for perhaps some of these drivers when they come out of the pit lane on cold tires. It's no wonder people were sliding off the track, but now that they've gotten everything figured out, now that everything is more stable and warmed up, people are keeping it on the straight and narrow by and large, Jeremy.
They are indeed, and the fastest car on the racetrack by some considerable margin is Scott Andrews in that number 51 car for K2R Racing. He is on the lead lap. is the Aussie. He's a full 78 seconds behind Stephen Simpson, the leader. But last time around, as Stephen is still trying to get that car up to speed, he knows he's got a huge advantage, so he's not going to push too hard too soon. 7 seconds, though, was the advantage that Andrews had over Simpson on the last lap.
And Scott Andrews all over the back of TJ Fisher, so the Ligier putting a lot of pressure on the 47 Motorsports Norma. TJ Fisher having to look in his mirrors a lot as he's going up through the S's, and that is not the direction you want to be looking. You want to focus forward, as the Norma should quite easily pull away a little bit, but Scott Andrews flashing the headlights. Everyone knows that's good for about 40 horsepower. Maybe not, but it's all mental. In terms of the Australian, though, he's trying to stay in the draft of the Norma, punching a hole in the air. He thought, well, might as well just invite myself to come along there too. Stephen Simpson now almost 15 seconds, so the gap has almost stabilized between the first two. Scott Andrews a further 45 seconds behind Zachary Robichon.
That's absolutely correct. In fact, it's extended a little bit over the last couple of laps. Stephen Simpson's just turned his 3 best laps of the race, a 204.4, a 203.2, and then last time around, a 202.7. So Stephen Simpson now is fully into his stride. He's being informed over the radio from Extreme Speed Motorsports what the gap is from first to second. He's responded absolutely perfectly, and he's going to now try and manage that gap in the final stages of the race.
Dr. Masson has a very handy lead over the rest of the competition, doesn't he, Jeremy? He keeps showing up as 1 lap, but I know that Stephen Dawes is...
It's a bit over a minute.
Yeah, but he's going very slowly by my eye as he moves out of the way of an LMP3 car. I think Dr. Masson is slowing. Jeremy, I think something's wrong with the 11, and he's looking around in his mirrors. Dr. Masson, he's crawling to almost a stop as he's going into turn 2.
Yes, he is, isn't he?
Oh, no. And that's the 77 going past him now. It's not for position, James French.
That was he was a lap behind.
Yep.
So gaining that lap back.
What is going on with Dr. Masson's car? Maybe some sort of electrical glitch due to all the rain that's going on? Car 11 is still continuing, although he's moving very slowly. This would mean that Stephen Dawes would be pumped into the lead of the race. Masson is at a snail's pace right now. He's talking on the radio to his performance tech engineers back on the wall, trying to let them know what's going on. Maybe he's stuck in a gear. There's a green light on his dashboard that is reflecting on his helmet visor as Stephen Dawes is closing in. Dr. Masson just exiting 4, coming through 5 as Stephen Dawes turns into turn 4. The gap now down to almost nothing between the 2 team cars. Oh my goodness, could Stephen Dawes lead the MPC category? It's about to happen as Dr. Masson is going very slowly up toward the S's. And back behind him is Stephen Dawes in the number 22, immediately followed by Michael Kamecki, who is a further lap down. There's the lead change. Stephen Dawes for Performance Tech, the number 22, leads MPC with 16.5 minutes to go in round 5 of the race at Virginia International Raceway. Drama has struck Dr. Robert Masson, who looked to be on for taking over the championship lead.
Yeah, that's cruel luck for the Masson family. For Performance Tech Motorsports, they'll be disappointed, of course, because Robert is going for the championship. Stephen isn't, but Stephen is a teammate there at Performance Tech. So for now, at least, the lead in NPC will remain with Performance Tech Motorsports. But Michael Miller is looming, and in fact, the last couple of laps, Stephen has upped his pace, and he's pretty much running the same sort of speed as Michael Miller in 3rd place.
And in fairness, Jeremy, Stephen Dawes comes into the weekend on 109 points, tied for 5th.
Yes, of course.
The leader was only 112 points.
You're right, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Wow, I am stunned by what's going on right now. It's poor Dr. Masson sitting in the car has actually come to a stop, so he has stopped trying to make his way all the way around the track.
Why has he stopped it there?
I don't think he had a choice. I think it just gave up on him there. and he just hit the brakes. He sees a break in the fence where the orange is indicated
but he
on the
didn't pull
guardrail.
over towards it. That's the problem.
No, he didn't pull off the racing circuit to try and go towards it across the grass. I wonder if something is seized on him though.
Stephen Simpson, last time around, our race leader in car number 30. He's just turned his best lap of the race, a 2:01.9. And the gap between himself and second place, 13.2 seconds last time around. Robichon just a little bit quicker, but only about half a second or so, with just under 15 minutes remaining in this race.
When I talked with the Performance Tech team earlier in the week, Jeremy, they mentioned something about the radio communication does go out around the south side of the course, and the full course yellow has come out. I wonder if Dr. Masson can no longer hear from his team, if they were trying to feed him instructions on what to do, if they were telling him to stop the car, if there was going to be some sort of drama in terms of the engine or something else more sinister going forward. But the full course caution is out, and it is for car number 11. Robert Masson stopped on course, will need some help to get his MPC car that he had been leading before drama struck. Green flag waves once again on this race. And 6.5 minutes to go. Stephen Simpson, perfect restart, and Zachary Robichon trying to split two slower cars, including Kenton Cook.
It's Kenton Cook who's trying to get his lap back.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I agree with that. There's not really enough time left for anything to happen. But
well, no.
in any case, Zachary Robichon with the right-hand turn signal flashing, and Stephen Simpson trying to check out because he sees Kenton Cook in the rearview mirror. The two of them have no love lost from other series where they have had bumpers exchanged in the past, so Stephen Simpson will want to try and put as much distance between himself and the following car as possible. Scott Andrews in the number 51, the bright yellow roof, is trying to get himself around some cars that are a little bit further back down the field, a couple laps further back. Memo Gidley, I believe, was the car immediately ahead of him.
It's a really good restart there for Stephen Simpson, and he'll be thrilled to see the car of Kenton Cook behind him, because he knows that he's not a threat for the win here. Kenton's just trying to make his point. Fair enough. He's a very talented young driver. There's a mistake there for, I think that was Zachary Robichon, wasn't it? Sliding wide there at Oak Tree Corner, so that's cost him even more ground to the leader, Stephen Simpson.
The windshield wiper is almost going lazily on the number 30 Extreme Speed Motorsport Ligier from Stephen Simpson. There is no rain falling outside, but I don't think Stephen wants to take a hand off the steering wheel to try and figure out where the windshield wiper button is. It's not his normal race car, so we might push a different button. Engine off. No, wrong button. Don't do that. And Stephen driving his own race. He has torn off the rear mirror in the cockpit of his number 30 machine. He did figure out where that one was, and he's focusing forward. 4.5 minutes to go. That means we'll get, what, 3 laps, Jeremy, right?
Yeah, 2 more, yeah.
That should be good fun.
Yep, it should be, yeah, 3 more laps from here, you're right.
Kenton Cook is actually playing a nice tail gunner for Stephen Simpson, and Zachary Robichon 1.6 seconds
and
back.
a surprise there, but Scott Andrews did not get a good restart. He lost a lot of ground on that restart lap in car number 51.
There were a lot of cars between himself and the cars ahead of him. So the class split, although it was called for, didn't necessarily have an impact, because I think there were 3 or 4 cars between himself.
Lapped LMP3 cars,
lapped
that's
LMP3
right,
cars.
Because there's a whole bunch of the top 13 cars, they're on 4 different laps. There's another spin. That's
Bart Wolff at turn 1.
Oh, that's not good for his championship aspirations. Michael Miller has taken the lead, by the way, in car number 86. He snuck past Stephen Dawes on that last lap, and James French now then, with that spin for Bart Wolff, will move into second.
And for Stephen Dawes, he has to watch behind him because he's got a slew of LMP3 cars coming through, 4 of them in a line, all fighting for their own class positions. Michael Miller in that number 86 machine. Remember, it's been off the track a few times today, Jeremy. The 86 is a number that we've called for some lawn mowing excursions. Stephen Simpson ahead of Zachary Robichon, ahead of Scott Andrews. Those are our top 3 cars with 3 minutes to go. Michael Miller in the 86, Stephen Dawes in the 22, and Bart Wolf before he went off the track in the number 28. It should now be James French in third in the number 77, actually.
Correct.
So James goes from, what was that, 5th before the caution came out and way, way down the charts to all of a sudden a podium. And that would be a double podium for Performance Tech. It wouldn't be the top step as it is right now, but at least 2 of the 3 spots would be populated by their cars. Steven Simpson, 2.5 seconds with 2.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, and by far his best lap there. The track's certainly drying out. A 1 minute 55.2 for Steven Simpson. That's actually that and the restart lap. The first 2 laps he's done under 2 minutes since he got into the car. The track definitely drying out, and he's put a bit of margin between himself and Kenton Cook just to make things a little bit safer.
There was a moment for Michael Miller coming across the start-finish line where he had an LMP3 car behind him who caught up to him at a great rate of speed, and the LMP3 car didn't expect Michael to be going so slowly, nearly rear-ended him.
Got a 3-car battle for 4th place now, with Andrew Evans under intense pressure from both Ben Waddell in car number 3 and TJ Fisher in car number 47. That's a battle for 4th, 5th and 6th.
And that has championship implications because Ben Waddell, who shares with Maxwell Hanratty in the 3rd place, needs to stay ahead of TJ Fisher in the 47, who shares with Austin McCusker coming into the weekend 2nd in the championship points. That would have an impact, as Zachary Robichon still cannot get around Kenton Cook, and Kenton actually pulling clear away of Robichon in the IMSA Motorsports number 4. Steven Simpson is loving this right now. His yellow helmet behind the wheel of the number 30. We are at 1 minute to go as he tries to go around Bart Wolf in the number 28, the MPC car that collected a lot of what would feed probably 5 baby goats over the span of the week. A lot of grass.
This for Zachary Robichon for finishing 2nd place. It's good for his team boss, Dean Baker. This would be that pairing's 2nd win. Second win for Dean Baker in the Masters class in succession.
This is the last lap as the sun begins to set and gives just a beautiful imagery. Makes the black number 30 of ESM almost look a bit yellow. And Steven Simpson, you can see into the cockpit, look into his eyes at this point. It'll be a nightmare for breaking into the roller coaster, but for now, it's a photographer's dream as Steven Simpson, last time he'll have to come through turn 4 at any sort of rate of speed, because the next time he goes should be a bit more peaceful. And all of a sudden, James French, Jeremy, he is fighting to maintain his 100% winning record. He goes around the number 86, and a Performance Tech car is leading at the white flag. James French has taken the lead of the MPC class.
Yeah, he made up 3 seconds on that lap. He passed, first of all, he got past Stephen Dawes, then he's also passed Michael Miller as well. So that's a tremendous drive for James French, and gosh, how emotional that will be.
Oh my.
For that team.
That's a podium ceremony I definitely want to be at. Steven Simpson coming down the back straight. He goes past the old pits, up the little hill. Sun won't be in his eyes just quite yet, but now it'll start to blind him as he comes down the hill and the braking into the roller coaster section. He's got the left turn, and then he pulls the car back over to the right, prepares for the next left-hander, just barely touch the curb, let the car drift out wide. He's got an MPC car ahead of him, but he doesn't need to worry because that will not slow him down. 2.7 seconds worth, which is the lead he has over 2nd place Zachary Robichon. And here comes Steven Simpson. He will cross the start-finish line, claiming the win for the number 30, Chris Wright and the Extreme Speed Motorsport team victorious once again, extending Chris Wright's championship lead with 1 round remaining in the championship. Steven Simpson, ultimate plug-and-play accessory. I think this just proved him a little bit stronger. And as for plug-and-play accessories, how about James French? He got drafted into the Performance Tech team, the MPC class, never had driven one of these cars before at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park back in July. Went on with Howard Jacobs in the number 77 to claim victory there. They asked him if he wanted to do it again at VIRginia International Raceway. And when it looked like it was going to be a 5th place finish before the caution came out, James French said, no, that won't work. I would like to win. Thank you very much. And that's exactly what he has just done. 2 for 2 for James French and Howard Jacobs in the number 77. A win for Performance Tech Motorsport on a weekend when they really need it. First and third for that team. What an emotional day.
The IMSA Prototype Challenge presented by Mazda at VIR has had everything. Excitement, a bit of weather, tactics, all playing out here on the 3 1/4 mile circuit. Chris Wright and Stephen Simpson take the win in LMP3 and overall from Baker and Robichon, Hodes and Andrews on the podium, and look down to 14th position for our winners in the MPC category. Let's head down to Victory Lane and hear from our overall winners.
You know, it was fantastic team effort. Chris made a great start, had a fantastic opening stint, and the team did a fantastic job. We had a good pit stop, and really when I got in the car and the team said I had a 25-second lead or something, I thought, well, you know, Chris did all the hard work here. I just need to drive it around and try and bring it home. So great job to Chris and the team.
Yeah, no, it was, you know, we really wanted it to stay dry, but, you know, it turned out to be a good thing for us that it rained. You know, it was just a great weekend all around. You know, we kept inching the car up to a really good spot, you know, through practices and testing. And, you know, we're just really thankful that, you know, everything came out right today.
With that win, Chris Wright pulls out to a 23-point lead over Austin McCusker in second, Max Hanratty another 4 points further back in third place. That's the LMP3 standings after 5 rounds of the championship. In MPC, Dave House just 3 points ahead of Howard Jacobs, who's 1 point ahead of Stephen Dawes, who's 1 point ahead of Bart Wolf and Tazio Otis.
So, yeah, we had a pretty interesting start there. It looked like it was going to be dry for us. Obviously, Mother Nature had other plans, so Howard got stuck out there on slicks for probably longer than he wanted, but did an excellent job of staying alive and staying on track. No mistakes. You know, did a great job handing off the car in one piece. Perfect. And I hopped in. Didn't really know where I was at, honestly. I kept asking, and there was some static in the radio. But, you know, I eventually figured out we were on the lead lap, and then we were picking off people for position, and then, I mean, gutted for, you know, Dr. Masson and Kyle. They had a good race going, and unfortunately, they brought up the caution that helped us catch up, but it really saved us in the end, and, you know, we were able to pick off the last 2 guys the last couple laps and brought it home.
Yeah, you know, I knew that going out there, we just needed to maintain some semblance of racing out there with the slicks out there. And if we can hand the car over to James and things worked out the way they're supposed to work out, we would be fine. And once again, James was able to come through and it worked out really well for us.
Brilliant stuff here at VIR. Don't expect it to be any different when we're next on the track. Road Atlanta, Brazelton, Georgia, another fabulous road circuit for our final race of the season. Make sure you join us then to see the champions crowned for Shea Adam and Jeremy Shaw, as well as our hard-working production crew here at the track and in Charlotte, as well as our volunteer marshals and officials here at VIR. I'm John Hindhaugh. Thanks for joining us. Hope you'll want to see more of the IMSA Prototype Challenge presented by Mazda when we're back for the last round of the season. Bye-bye.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of the International Motorsports Association. We would like to thank all of our loyal fans for your continued support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.